Hello and good evening, and it gives me great pleasure to begin on a happy note. It's great news for all cricket fans. The much delayed announcement about the schedule of the Indian Premier League has been finally made. The 13th season of the blockbuster Cricket League will begin on the 19th of this month in Abu Dhabi. The inaugural clash will take place between defending champions Mumbai Indians and last season runners-up Chennai Super Kings in Abu Dhabi. We'll get you all the details about IPL 13th season on Newsnight tonight. I'm Gautam Roy. And we'll also be talking to our guests about how, with COVID recovery numbers staying in the 70,000 plus range for the second consecutive day, limited metro services are set to return in several cities tomorrow with stringent SOPs. But first, our headlines. Two-member central team from Union Health Ministry is visiting Punjab and Chandigarh in view of the rising number of COVID-19 cases there. The team will assist state and union territory authorities in reducing death rate by improving health surveillance, testing and clinical management. Number of daily COVID-19 recoveries keeps rising in India. Second straight day of 70,000 plus recovered cases in the last 24 hours. Over 10.9 lakh tests also conducted in a single day. Union Health Secretary holds a meeting with health secretaries of 6 states and union territories to tackle the spread of the disease in 35 districts. Limited metro services to return on tracks after nearly 5 months in Delhi and other cities from Monday. Commuters in Mumbai and Kolkata will have to wait a little longer. Passengers will have to wear masks, observe social distancing and follow other precautionary measures in view of the pandemic. President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi are set to address the inaugural session of Governors' Conference on National Education Policy on Monday. The conference, organized by the Education Ministry, is on the role of NEP 2020 in transforming higher education. The news tightens further around Riya Chakrabarti in the Sushant Singh Rajput death case. The actor will be questioned for the second straight day tomorrow at the Narcotics Control Bureau office in Mumbai. Rajput's house staff Dipesh Sawant sent to NCB's custody till the 9th of this month. Multiple overnight stabbings rock UK's Birmingham with at least 1 man killed and 7 others injured. The hunt is on for the male suspect who went on a stabbing spree starting at the city's Constitution Hill area. And the much-awaited schedule for the 13th edition of the Indian Premier League is out. The inaugural clash will be held on the 19th of this month in Abu Dhabi between defending champs Mumbai Indians and Chennai Super Kings. Dates and venues for the playoffs will be announced later. The country has been waging a war against COVID-19 with full determination to beat the pandemic. Each day sees the nation inching forward. For the second consecutive day today, the number of recovered cases stayed above the 70,000 plus range, taking the overall recovery rate to above 77.32%. India's case fatality rate remains among the lowest in the world at 1.72%. The effort to curb the disease remains relentless, with the centre lending all assistance it can to states to ramp up testing as well as recoveries while keeping fresh cases down. Here are the details.
The spike in the daily recovery of COVID-19 patients continues in the country. For the second successive day, India has clocked a record recovery of more than 70,000 patients in a single day. The data says that 73,642 patients have recovered and been discharged from either home isolation or hospitals in the last 24 hours. The total number of recoveries has reached 31,80,865. With this surge in the number of patients getting recovered on a daily basis, India's recovery rate has been further pushed upwards to 77.32%. As of now, the active caseload is 8,62,320, which accounts for merely 20.96% of the total positive cases so far. India's case fatality rate is one of the lowest globally, which continues to further compress. It is pegged at 1.72%. The Union Health Ministry has been proactively monitoring the trajectory of the COVID pandemic and been undertaking impactful interactions. Repeat, and has been undertaking impactful interactions with the concerned state UT authorities to guide the administration in improving their management of the crisis. Union Health Secretary held a review meeting through video conference with the health secretaries of 5 states and 1 UT on the containment and management of COVID in 35 districts under their jurisdiction. Union Health Secretary underscored the need to suppress, curb and eventually break the chain of transmission of the infectious disease by strengthening the active case search and scaling up the testing to decrease the positivity rates below 5%. These 35 districts comprise Kolkata, Howrah, North 24 Parganas and South 24 Parganas in West Bengal, Pune, Nagpur, Thane, Mumbai, Mumbai Suburban, Kolhapur, Sangli, Nashik, Ahmednagar, Raigad, Jalgaon, Sholapur, Satara, Palghar, Aurangabad, Dhule and Nanded in Maharashtra, Surat in Gujarat, Pondicherry in Puducherry, East Singhbhum in Jharkhand and all 11 districts in Delhi. The state's UTs were advised to take steps to ensure limiting the spread of the infection by implementing stringent containment measures, following social distancing measures, strict perimeter control and active house-to-house case search. In addition, early identification by ramping up testing across the districts, effective monitoring of home isolation cases, seamless hospitalization and early admission for patients requiring medical support were also advised. The centre is actively supporting the state's UTs that are seeing a sudden surge in the number of COVID cases and those that are reporting high mortality by deputing multi-sectoral central teams. In this regard, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has decided to deploy central teams to Punjab and the Union Territory of Chandigarh. The 2-member teams will comprise of a community medicine expert from PGIMER, Chandigarh, and epidemiologist from NCDC. The teams shall be stationed in the state UT for 10 days to provide extended guidance in managing COVID. These teams will assist the state UT in strengthening public health measures for containment, surveillance, testing and efficient clinical management of COVID patients with the aim to reduce mortality and save lives. The high-level teams will also guide the state UT in effectively addressing the challenges related to timely diagnosis and follow-up. Punjab has reported a total of 60,013 cases, whereas it has 15,731 active cases on date. It has registered 1,739 deaths. The UT of Chandigarh is reporting 2,095 active cases, whereas its cumulative cases stand at 5,268. Uttar Pradesh government is making all efforts in the fight against the pandemic. The government is focusing on testing. On Saturday, over 1,55,000 people were tested, which is a record in itself. On Sunday, markets were closed in the state. Earlier, markets remained closed on Saturday and Sunday. But in the Unlock 4, government has decided to close markets only on Sunday. Due to large-scale testing by the centre and state governments, the infection is identified at the primary stage and patients get early treatment. Nitendra Singh's report, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And while the nation is fighting the pandemic with all its might, it's also moving ahead to meet the daily necessities of its people. As part of Unlock 4, metro services in several cities are being resumed from tomorrow after a gap of nearly 5 months in a limited way. The return on tracks is going to be slow and steady with all precautions in place.
Metro services in Delhi, Bengaluru, Kochi and Lucknow will restart from Monday after 5 long months. But it will be a completely different experience in the view of the COVID-19 pandemic. All preparations are in place to get the metro running again. Coaches are being disinfected and sanitized. In Delhi, many metro stations will be equipped with auto-thermal screening cum hand sanitizing machines, automatic sanitizer dispenser. There will be foot pedal switches near the lifts to call them. Button panels are closed for the time being. Passengers will have to be seated alternately leaving one seat vacant between them. When standing, passengers will have to maintain a distance of 1 meter. The wall of the coaches will have posters of safety protocols stuck on them. Permission has been given to open only one entry and exit gate. Signboards have also been placed at all important places to guide the passengers. Stoppage time at every station has been increased for at least 10 seconds. For the initial days, Delhi Metro will run in 2 shifts of 4 hours each, from 7 am to 11 am and 4 pm to 8 pm.
Public transport is always better than the private transport, but people should maintain the social distancing.
Is good for common people. They will be able to travel who cannot afford costly public transport or which are private transport. So I think it will help in many ways for the common man.
पैसेंजर्स को दिक्कतें अभी बहुत आएंगी क्योंकि बड़े-बड़े जंक्शन जैसे हैं, राजी चौक है, मंडी हाउस है, जो भी नोएडा से मान लीजिए दिल्ली तरफ जा रहा है, तो जो जंक्शन स्टेशन है वहाँ पैसेंजर जो वेट करेंगे क्योंकि ऑलमोस्ट हमेशा वहाँ भीड़ रहती है, तो उसको कैसे मैनेज करेंगे?
In Bengaluru too, metro will restart from Monday. In phase 1, only the 6-coach metro trains will run from east to west line from 8 am to 11 am in the morning and 4:30 to 7:30 pm in the evening. Apart from this, stringent safety measures will also be implemented. Guidelines making masks mandatory and maintaining proper social distancing have been issued.
7 तारीख से तो हम पब्लिक के लिए खोल रहे हैं, लेकिन उसका प्रिपरेशंस में हमारा जो द्वार है, एंट्री द्वार है, वहाँ भी हमने स्टिकर्स लगाया है जो सोशल डिस्टेंस का हिसाब से। उसके बाद जब तक आप गेट में एंट्री करते हो उधर भी हमने लगाया है, और गेट का जो तुम स्मार्ट कार्ड यूज़ करते हो, स्मार्ट कार्ड भी आप उसको चिपकना नहीं चाहिए, वो थोड़ा दूर से 2 सेंटीमीटर दूर से अगर पकड़े तो भी इट विल ओपन।
Preparations are in place in Uttar Pradesh's capital Lucknow for Monday. Stations and trains are being sanitized. The metro will operate from morning 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. The metro will witness less than half of its traffic. The frequency of trains has also been reduced and each train will come after a gap of 5.5 minutes. The authorities are working day in and day out to ensure safe metro rides for people. Every guideline issued by the Ministry of Health is being followed. It will be mandatory for all passengers to wear masks.
7 तारीख से मेट्रो शुरू होगी, बिल्कुल पहले के भांति ही सुबह 6 बजे से लेकर के रात के 10 बजे तक ट्रेन हर स्टेशन पर रुकेगी और हर 5.5 मिनट के बाद में दूसरी ट्रेन उपलब्ध रहेगी। भी ट्रैवल करने वालों से बोलते हैं कि वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा संख्या में आरोग्य सेतु यूज़ करें, लेकिन जिनके पास स्मार्ट कार्ड नहीं है वो भी अपनी डिटेल रजिस्टर करके रजिस्टर में और उसके बाद में फिर ट्रेन में सुविधा उपलब्ध कर सकते हैं, ट्रेन में ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं। हम पहली ऐसी मेट्रो होंगी जहाँ पर हम सारे के सारे टोकन्स को रात में अल्ट्रावायलेट रेस के तहत सैनिटाइज करेंगे।
The metro services along with all public transportation services were suspended across the country since the nationwide lockdown was announced on 24th March. Under Unlock 4.0, the Government of India issued guidelines permitting metro services to resume from 7th September. Metro services will resume in Delhi, Noida, Lucknow, Bengaluru, Hyderabad and several other cities.
Come Monday, and Delhi Metro will resume its services in a graded manner after nearly 6 months of shutdown. It is giving a lot of reprieve to the commuters who rely on Delhi Metro services. Now, Delhi Metro has made it very clear, the officials have made it very clear that SOPs and protocols have been put in place for social distancing norms, and they will be keeping a close vigil on stations as well as on trains for that. With cameraman Alok, this is Tapush Bhattacharya, TD India, Delhi.
So life has to go on and metro has to go on in our cities as well. But at the same time, the nation is continuing the battle against COVID-19. The fight is really on. And although big numbers are being talked about in the sense that the overall numbers in India continue to rise, but the big takeaways are these. 73,642 recoveries have taken place in the last 24 hours. That's a big number. That's a significant number, because that is what is really determining our overall recovery rate as well. If we move on, we'll tell you about that too in terms of the recovery rate further on. If we could talk about that as well, it is now over 77%. If we could move on in the graphic, that will be helpful. If we talk about the recovery rate which is overall, that is more than 77%, 77.37% to be precise. Further on, if we talk about how things are proceeding, we have seen testing numbers rising as well through the course of this pandemic. If you look at this broad data here, how the recoveries in the last 24 hours, they've been going up and up and up, right from the 23rd of August to now. If you look at the data for 5th of September, it's been plotted here. That's when the figures of 70,000 plus started being registered. So there you see 70,000 plus recoveries. There have been consecutive days, repeated days of late of that, which is a big relief, a big takeaway as far as the nation's battle against COVID-19 is concerned. Further on, if you look at additional data coming in, how India is battling COVID-19, that is what we are seeing now. 77.32% is the recovery rate right now, where the total recoveries are over nearly 32 lakh. And if you look at the mortality rate, the total deaths might be above 70,000, but the mortality rate is 1.72%, which is amongst the lowest in the world. And the active cases are 20.96%, which is a fraction, really, a fifth of the total numbers, although the total active cases in absolute numbers is 8.62 lakh, a little over that. So that's the broad picture of how you can really assess the pandemic as far as India is concerned, and the most operative figure is the mortality rate. Now look at what is happening in terms of how the country is moving further in Unlock 4.0. Metro services are returning. These will be back on tracks before the pandemic. As far as Delhi is concerned, 60 lakh was the average daily commuters in the Delhi metro. If you look at the other numbers for other cities as well, again, things will be different as things resume from tomorrow, because it's going to be a limited service. There will be 2 shifts in Delhi, and it will be limited further in other cities as well. Delhi Metro, of course, has the largest network, 389-kilometer long network. For the entire metro, only the Yellow Line service is being resumed in 2 shifts for 4 hours each tomorrow. And if things go well from there, if they proceed the way things have been planned, then this service will be expanded. 70% commuters use smart cards as far as the Delhi Metro is concerned. That's the only way that you can travel. There will be no tokens issued if you talk about the services resuming tomorrow. So this is a very important number as well. These are the people who get to travel. And if you talk about the Delhi Metro again, 46.53 lakh average daily commuters was the figure that we had when the lockdown was imposed in March 2020. So the numbers for tomorrow will be nowhere near that figure, but it will be a return to tracks in COVID times. If you look at the Mumbai Metro, and services are not resuming right away over there, 11.4 kilometer long network, so it's not a very large one as far as maximum city is concerned. The service is still being expanded over there. And further on, if you look at it, 4 lakh was the average daily commuters in March 2020, where the Mumbai Metro is concerned. So again, although the services are not resuming over there, one can really presume that these will not be the numbers once the services do resume. There, if you talk about Bengaluru Number Metro, the network is 42.3 kilometers long over there. And you look at what was the last reported average traffic of commuters. Again, it was 4 lakh average daily commuters in March 2020. So that was the case with Bengaluru. If you look at it further in terms of the other cities that are coming back on track, and Kolkata is not one of them. It's not resuming tomorrow in Kolkata. The network is 27.22 kilometers long. And if you talk about the daily average commuters in Kolkata, that figure was 7 lakh average daily commuters. That is the Kolkata Metro. Further on, if you look at the Kochi Metro, 23.8 kilometer long network in that particular city. And the average commuters daily in that city before the lockdown was imposed was about 65,000. That is the figure that you can see on the screen now. 65,000 average daily commuters. That was the case before the pandemic hit and lockdowns were imposed. Further on, there is Hyderabad as well, which has a metro service, and the network there is 69 kilometers long. And if you look at the average daily commuter numbers, it was 4.9 lakh before the lockdown was imposed. There are more cities in the list. There is Chennai there as well. Chennai Metro, 45.1 kilometer long network, and the number of average daily commuters there before the lockdown was imposed was 1.21 lakh, if you look at the Chennai Metro's case. And further on, you have got Lucknow there as well, and we showed you pictures of that as well. 22.87 kilometer long network, and daily average commuters there was 60,000 before the lockdown was imposed. So this is not going to be the picture tomorrow. The picture tomorrow is supposed to be very orderly, very methodic, people observing social distancing, lots of cleaning, everything spick and span. Ahmedabad as well, the network is 6.5 kilometers long. So that is the case where the metro services are concerned. They're going to resume tomorrow in a limited fashion in several cities in the country. Of course, Delhi being topmost, and we'll talk about that as well in our In Focus that's just coming up in a bit. Stay with Newsnight.
वनडे सीमेंट, एक परफेक्ट शुरुआत।
सीमाएं नहीं हैं, पर युद्ध तो है। शत्रु नहीं समक्ष, पर प्रहरी तो है। दुश्मन है कि जो दिखता नहीं, पर इन आंखों से छिपता नहीं।
Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight, and now it's time to turn to our In Focus, which is going to be all about well, the nation battling COVID-19 and still moving on with the metro returning on tracks, and that's what our In Focus is all about. Metro life returning on tracks, and to talk about it, we have Dr. Jugal Kishore with us. He's HOD Community Medicine, Safdarjung Hospital, and we also have Vijay Kumar Dutt, former additional member of the Railway Board. Welcome to you both. First to you, Dr. Jugal Kishore. In terms of the progress that the nation is making in the battle against COVID-19, where we have recoveries, daily recoveries going beyond the 70,000 mark on consecutive days, how do you assess how things are progressing as far as battling the pandemic is concerned at this stage? Because it is a critical juncture. We have metro services returning in a lot of cities, including Delhi, starting tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a very good initiative of the government, because the metro is the lifeline in many of the cities, metro cities. So the metro line is going to increase the mobility. And as we see the pandemic, definitely the interaction will increase, and there are more chances of having the transmission of infection. So we are going to see more infection rate in coming time, but nothing to worry, as you have rightly said that recovery is quite high and mortality is also low. So we are expecting that all the state and also the metros are, metro in the sense that the metro cities are prepared to handle a increase of the cases. So that is a very good initiative, because by this the mental health of the people is going to increase further. Definitely the infection will increase, but at the same time you become more mobile and moving for your job and everything. I think is going to be a very good initiative.
Certainly. And Vijay Kumar Dutt, if I could ask you, in terms of the kind of preparations that have been put into this and the SOPs that have been put in place with a lot of precaution and really overload of precaution in terms of how these norms have to be observed by not just the commuters but by the people who secure those who commute in these trains as well. And security has an added dimension now in terms of how to keep people safe with regard to their health as well?
Pratham, thank you so much. Actually, the nation must move on, but with lot of precautions so that we can defeat Corona, as we have been doing it. With metro, this is the lifeline if we have to go on with the business. Now, to prevent Corona, there is a lot of work doing on and off the line. When the train is maintained at the night, the maintenance will be different. Every part will be sanitized. Stations will be sanitized. Entry gates will be sanitized. And then the checking at the gate. Everyone has to wear a mask. It will be sanitization. The social distances not only at the platform, but in the train itself. The distances will be marked. If you are standing, keep a distance of more than 1 meter. If you are sitting in the train, there will be cross mark. You keep a seat vacant in between the queue. I'm sure if our patrons, commuters follow this, they will be very, very safe. But one thing I can tell you, Gautam, metro in India has been a very big discipliner. See, automatic doors, they close, people follow, people keep the distance. So people have adopted to the way of life in metro. One thing more I can tell for the users, so there is a lot of apprehensions about air conditioning. But like in operation theatre, all air goes out. So air conditioning in the coaches has been modified, at the stations has been modified, so that the air you breathe in is totally germ-free and totally COVID-free. Okay. So these are the precautions which have been taken, and I'm sure with this precaution, the travelling by metro for the people will add a new dimension, a safe travel and travel in time and very faster.
Certainly. And the primary responsibility, of course, lies with the people themselves, which is why, you know, DD News and DD India have spoken exclusively to Union Housing and Urban Affairs Secretary as well, Durga Shankar Mishra, and he said that those people who are not following social distancing norms will be dealt very strictly with as far as travelling in metros is concerned. Listen in.
People will have to stand there or will have to sit only in the earmarked places. Everything is being watched through our closed circuit TV, and this is being monitored at the central command and control room. So from the central command and control room, if it is seen that the people are not observing the social distancing, they are violating, whether it is inside the metro train or outside the metro train on the platform, the markings where they have to stand, then the train may not even stop. It will just pass from there. Trains are not going to stop at the stations which are in the containment zone, but other stations is going to stop.
So that's something very, very important for people to understand as far as the operation starting from tomorrow is concerned, because if they do not follow the norms that have been put in place, social distancing and otherwise, they will suffer. Dr. Jugal Kishore, do you feel that this is the right way to resume, that you know, one has to have an overdose of caution in order to get back to the way things were, because that is a very uphill climb for the moment?
Yeah, some of the preparation which has been elaborated is definitely very good. Beside that, I would like to say a few more points, that the whole staff of the metro has to be trained that how to deal with more humanely rather than very policing manner, like taking the temperature. The right way of taking temperature through that machine is also very important. If you just take as casual, which has been seen previously, should not be done. Similarly, when they are wearing the mask, it is not necessary that they have to be very far or keeping 1 meter distance. But anyway, if the distance is kept, definitely is good. But what is important is wearing the mask, and that mask can be cloth mask, and which can be reused and can be washed, and again and again can be used. So one should not have the burden of having more buying the mask Similarly, the sanitization which has been said, it should not be in the end of the, the end of the day, but rather every trip, the new people will come. So definitely every trip in the end, if something can be done, is much better than, just in the end. Similarly, like, the people who are standing, if we do not allow standing, rather sitting is much better, because when they're handling the many part of the, train, because they have to balance themselves. So that is touching many part of the train. So if we can reduce that part, is much better. So we should allow people to sit, and then, they should be trained in manner that they should not touch the train as less as possible. Then there should be training of the people in the form of, like, if suppose somebody is having the, sign and symptom and has been identified, then, this person should not be just left, but rather he should be, shifted to nearby hospital. So some kind of arrangement should be made in a place which is closer to hospital. Then I think if ambulance is there, or they are already having the metro services, so they can be used to transmit such kind of patient to nearby, health center, or maybe the COVID hospital. If some serious case occurred within the train, then definitely, such patient should be moved totally, then I think it's much better. Similarly, the toilets, they have to be, clean. Somebody should be there all the time and keep cleaning things. So I feel that these are very important things. Using sanitizer should be less as compared to the, soap and water. So the water and soap should be made available in many places, rather than, having the sanitizer, which is much dangerous when we are using again and again and too many times. So these few points I think should be, implemented. Last point, I think, rather decreasing the service, or say 5-minute or 6-minute duration, if we can increase the, frequency of the train, which is much better, because this is going to decrease the load. So that can be thought of. That would be very useful. We can decrease the load, and definitely.
But I'm sure the process will be very dynamic, Dr. Jugal Kishore, because they will see how things go the first 2 days, and then there will be tweaking and expansion of service as well. But let's get Vijay Kumar Dutt's perspective on this as well. And Mr. Dutt, what do you make of the points that Dr. Jugal Kishore has raised? Because what the different metro services in different cities are doing now, how they're recommencing services, has also been a very well thought out process, hasn't it?
I am very sure. What I watch is what Dr. Jugal Kishore said is very necessary, and it is a reminder. I'm sure all these steps are being followed, but yes, something which has to be told again and again and again and again, and he's emphasized in a very nice way. Only one thing which people, when they travel in metro, say if there is an emergency, if you see any case, what you do? Say there is a button, you press it and you speak it, and directly driver is talking to you, and that is the fastest way. I have seen people going to mobile, but the very thing is just press a button and they speak, and driver says, sir, what can I do you? And immediately help arises. So this should be known to most people who go in the metro, that when there is an emergency, how to react it.
Right. And Dr. Jugal Kishore, in terms of the kind of advisory that's been issued by Delhi Metro, again, keeping, erring on the side of caution, it's even advised people not to just travel light and only travel when it's absolutely essential for them, because the capacity will be fairly limited. It might be less than 20% of the usual capacity. People have also been advised not to talk to each other in the train while while they're in the metro.
Yeah, it's true. When you talk, if you have a mask, then there should not be a problem. Rather, sitting, very close is also not a problem. If both of the person are wearing a mask.
We've seen that happen in flights. People have traveled sitting close to each other.
Yeah. Like in flight. Yeah, that's true. Even the court has allowed it. What I want to say that, the respiratory etiquettes, we are talking about this again and again, but unfortunately, many of the people are not understanding. It should be in Hindi. अगर मैं हिंदी में बोलूँ अच्छा होगा कि जो लोगों को तंबाकू खाने की आदत है या पान खाने की आदत है, वो इधर उधर थूकने का उनको जरूरत पड़ती है, तो बड़ा मुश्किल होता है कि अगर वो मेट्रो में जा रहे हैं तो फिर कैसे करें। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये एक ऐसा टाइम है जब उनको एक ये मौका मिला है कि वो इस आदत को छोड़े, और इसका बिल्कुल ट्रीटमेंट अवेलेबल है। तो मैं ये उनको रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगा कि दिस इज द राइट टाइम दैट दे शुड स्टॉप यूजिंग दीज ऑल हैबिट्स विच आर नॉट गुड for themselves and also to other. This is because of this habit our country is facing such kind of big issue, big problem, because spit or throw the sputum somewhere is going to increase the chances of infection. So I think the guidelines which are issued by Delhi government is very good and should be adhered to, but should be in more humane manner, should be more encouraging, empowering, rather than policing.
Well, certainly, I'm sure that has been kept in mind as well, because of the kind of changes that are required in everyone's way of traveling and, of course, conducting the service of different metros in different cities as well. And I'm sure we will return on tracks and stay on tracks for an expanded service as well, as long as everybody cooperates with each other. And it's very important to follow social distancing and other precautionary norms, and we will track how things go in different cities as well very closely on DD News and DD India, and report to you how things are going as well in the course of the next couple of days. That will be very, very closely watched by several quarters. Thanks a lot for joining us, Dr. Jugal Kishore and Vijay Kumar Dutt, for the evening. Okay, now what is also happening with life on tracks in general throughout the country? Well, the Indian Railways on Saturday announced it will run 40 pairs of new special trains starting the 12th of September, and reservation for these trains will begin from the 10th of September. And these will be running in addition to the 230 trains already in operation. Let's get you more in this report.
As Unlock 4 unfolds gradually, the Indian Railways have come up with a decision to start 80 new special trains. Trains are the first choice for Indian passengers who wish to travel to different parts of the country, as they are the most convenient and smooth option for them. The COVID-19 pandemic, however, has left the passengers waiting for their favorite mode of travel for a long time now. Millions of Indian Railways employees have proved to be corona warriors, as they made it possible for the railways to run even in the lockdown period in a limited manner. The Indian Railways have brought good news for passengers with the announcement of 40 pairs of new special trains that are set to run from September 12th. This was announced by Railways Minister Piyush Goyal via a tweet, along with a list of trains that will be running. The 80 new special trains will be fully reserved, bookings for which will begin from 10th of this month. These special trains will be connecting various parts of the country, including Dehradun, Ajmer, Jaipur, Jabalpur, Prayagraj, Bhagalpur, Gorakhpur, Gwalior, Muzaffarpur. Earlier, the railways had begun running 30 Rajdhani special trains that started from the 12th of May this year. While 200 special Mail Express trains are already on tracks since June 1st, Indian Railways made efforts to make the path easier for the passengers. Apart from this, in centres bid to ferry stranded migrant workers to their native states during COVID-19 lockdown, Indian Railways also started special Shramik trains on the occasion of Labour Day from 1st of May and transported lakhs of workers to their homes. With the operation of cargo parcel trains, the railways also set a record in the lockdown period by transporting life-saving medicines and essential items across the country. With Bureau inputs, Rajesh Raj's report, DD India.
Now, President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the inaugural session of the Governors' Conference on National Education Policy tomorrow through a video link. The conference is titled Role of NEP 2020 in Transforming Higher Education, and it's being organized by the Union Education Ministry. NEP 2020 is directed towards major reforms in both school and higher education levels. The policy strives to make India into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. It envisions an India-centered education system that contributes directly to transforming India into a global superpower. The comprehensive transformation aimed with the NEP will bring about a paradigm shift in the country's education system and create an enabling and reinvigorated educational ecosystem for a new Atmanirbhar Bharat, which has been envisioned by Prime Minister Modi. Education ministers of all states, vice chancellors of state universities and other senior officials will also be attending the conference. Now, Riya Chakrabarti was questioned on Sunday for about 6 hours by the Narcotics Control Bureau in the drugs case linked to the death of a live-in partner and actor Sushant Singh Rajput. The actor has been asked to appear again on Monday for questioning and the recording of a statement just like today. A team of the agency had early morning visited her home to serve summons to her for joining the probe. A team led by NCB Joint Director Sameer Wankhare had visited Riya's house located in Santa Cruz West area, accompanied by local police and some women personnel.
The probe in the death case of Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput is ongoing with the Central Bureau of Investigation, Enforcement Directorate and Narcotics Control Bureau, all investigating the matter from different angles. Actor Riya Chakrabarti was questioned by the Narcotics Control Bureau in connection with allegations of drug abuse linked to Sushant Singh Rajput's death in June. Riya appeared before the NCB at its Mumbai office on Sunday. Earlier, a team of the agency visited Riya's home to serve summons to her for joining the probe. Mumbai NCB Chief Sameer Wankhare led the team serving summons to Riya. She has been summoned for questioning by the NCB again on Monday.
रिया चक्रवर्ती को कल दोबारा इंटरोगेशन और स्टेटमेंट कंटिन्यू करने के लिए दोबारा बुलाया गया कल। हमने एक रेड की जिसमें एक मिस्टर अनुज केशवानी के यहाँ से ड्रग्स मिले और ये अनुज केशवानी को एग्जामिन किया जा रहा है। इनका नाम कैजान इब्राहिम जो पहले पकड़े गए थे उनकी पूछताछ में सामने आया था।
On Friday, Riya's brother Shovik Chakrabarti and Sushant Singh Rajput's house manager Samuel Miranda were arrested in connection with the case. The authorities also arrested Sushant Singh Rajput's domestic help Dipesh Sawant, who has been sent to NCB custody till September 9th. Till now, the agency has arrested 7 persons in the case.
इसको प्रोड्यूस किया गया है, उसमें हमने आज एप्लीकेशन लगाई कि वो 4 तारीख से उनके कस्टडी में था, तो वायलेशन 57 और 167 का वायलेशन हुआ है। वो अर्जी दिया, अर्जी पे भी नोटिस इशू होके एनसीबी का रिप्लाई कॉल किया है और उसको पुलिस कस्टडी दी है 9 तारीख तक।
Sushant Singh Rajput was found hanging at his Mumbai home on June 14th. Mumbai police first started investigation in the actor's death case. Subsequently, due to some dispute with Bihar police, the case went to the Supreme Court, where the Apex Court ordered a CBI inquiry into the matter. At the same time, after the financial angle came into the scene, the Enforcement Directorate questioned Riya Chakrabarti while registering a case against her. Now the Narcotics Control Bureau is investigating the case after the drug angle appeared. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And time now to get you some more nationwide updates in our Nation Wrap.
The 2-day monsoon session of Maharashtra legislature will start from Monday. All the ministers, legislators, officials and journalists have undergone COVID-19 tests before the commencement of the session, and only those with a negative report will be allowed to attend the session. Therefore, people attending the monsoon session need to carry their COVID reports along with the admit cards. However, a slew of measures have been put in place to ensure social distancing and other COVID-19 norms during the 2-day session. Madhya Pradesh Agriculture Minister Kamal Patel has said that the government is standing united with the farmers and the poor in this time of flood crisis. He also urged the farmers to ensure their crops by 7 September so that the government can compensate for the damage done to the crops during the floods. In Kerala, the head of Edanir Mutt, Keshavananda Bharati, has passed away in Kasargod at the age of 79. In 1973, Keshavananda had filed a case challenging the Kerala government's attempts to impose restrictions over the Mutt property. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Union Home Minister Amit Shah took to Twitter and paid tributes to Keshavananda Bharati. Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri and UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, along with Airports Authority of India officials, reviewed the progress of the upcoming international airport at Kushinagar. Earlier, the Union Cabinet gave its nod for international airport status to UP's Kushinagar Airport. Kushinagar is one of the important Buddhist pilgrimage sites. An international airport at Kushinagar will play a significant role in the development of Buddhist circuit. The National Defence Academy entrance exam was conducted across the country with COVID-19 protocols and social distancing norms. As many as 94 centres were set up in Lucknow, where over 35,000 students attended the entrance test in 2 shifts. In Delhi, the Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia's Dargah has been reopened after over 5 months. Union Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi visited the Dargah and said that people across the country have displayed self-discipline, caution and celebrated all the festivals with precautions and social distancing to help curb the coronavirus infection. In Kerala, the State Excise Enforcement Squad has seized 500 kilograms of ganja near Athingal in Thiruvananthapuram. At least 2 people have been arrested in the case.
Air pollution is hazardous to health, and government should prioritize health of citizens by ensuring clean air as people recover from COVID-19. Doctors for Clean Air Conclave observed this on Sunday. The conclave was held on the occasion of a United Nations first ever International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. The conclave was conducted in a mode of a webinar where multidisciplinary doctors, including 7 medical associations representing over 1.5 lakh doctors, discussed the necessity of clean air and possible ways to achieve it.
During the, pregnancy, we can at least start telling them that once they step out their house, they must check out the air quality index and should not go out unless it is an emergency if the air quality is bad. Not to go for walks or exercise near the high traffic areas. Avoid exposure to paints, fumes, cleaning products, or may have an natural alternatives for these things.
If you don't control air pollution, it's going to destroy the next generation. There are enough studies which are showing that lung health, brain development, heart development, all the developments are being affected. In fact, we are irreversibly damaging our next generation. First and foremost and most precious thing that we need to give to them is clean air, which is something we are not devoting as much time to as we should.
And let's now get you some of the latest updates from across the world. And in fact, Typhoon Haishin has drawn closer to Japan's southern mainland on Sunday, cutting power and prompting authorities to recommend evacuation and the warning of potential record rainfall, unprecedented winds, high tides and large ocean swells. Authorities have urged early evacuation for more than 1 lakh households in the southern island prefecture of Okinawa and Kagoshima, Kumamoto and Nagasaki on Kyushu, Japan's main southern island. New Zealand's parliament was dissolved in a brief ceremony on Sunday, officially inaugurating the start of campaigning for the country's 17th of October elections. New Zealand Labour Party leader Jacinda Ardern delayed the poll by a month in August as Auckland, with nearly a third of New Zealand's 5 million people, was in lockdown due to a coronavirus resurgence. The most recent polls show the Labour Party has a strong lead over the Conservative National Party. Advance voting will start the 3rd of October. Police fired rounds of pepper balls at protesters in Hong Kong on Sunday as hundreds took to the streets to demonstrate against the postponement of legislative elections and a new national security law imposed by China. Thousands of police were stationed around Kowloon Peninsula in the afternoon as marchers waved placards and chanted popular anti-government slogans such as "Liberate Hong Kong." These slogans are now banned under the new security law. Police in Birmingham in central England said they were seeking a single suspect in relation to a series of stabbings in the early hours of Sunday that resulted in the death of 1 man and left another 7 injured, 2 of them seriously. The victims of the attacks appeared to be randomly selected, that's what the police said, and the incidents did not target any one community or appeared to be gang-related. The police said the incident was being treated as a homicide and it was being investigated by West Midlands Police, stressing that there's absolutely no suggestion at all that this is terror-related. Australian authorities announced that the Stage 4 lockdown in the Victorian capital city of Melbourne would be extended by 2 weeks. Victoria on Sunday reported 63 new COVID-19 infections and 5 deaths, down from a peak of 725 new cases on the 5th of August. Stage 4 restrictions imposed a nighttime curfew, shut most of the economy and limited people's movements to a 5-kilometer zone around their homes for 1 hour a day. 7 years after launching her debut movie Palo Alto at the Venice Film Festival, filmmaker Gia Coppola returned to the Water City with her sophomore feature Mainstream. The movie by Coppola, granddaughter of Francis Ford Coppola and niece of Sofia Coppola, is screening in the Sidebar Horizon section of the film festival and stars Andrew Garfield and Maya Hawke. Hawke plays Frankie, a young woman in her early 20s, looking for her life's purpose. And the November race to the White House is heating up and becoming uglier by the day. Incumbent U.S. President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden are taking each other on in a no-holds-barred contest with issues like China, Iran, COVID, racism and much more driving the campaign.
Campaign has picked up momentum for the U.S. presidential elections. Democrat Party candidate Joe Biden and Republican candidate U.S. President Donald Trump are feverishly canvassing for votes. COVID pandemic, China and racism are driving the discourse in the US elections this time. Violent protests against the killing of black African Americans in police firing is also finding a narrative in these elections. And now the news of protesters agitating police firing and Trump supporters clashing with each other are also figuring prominently in the headlines, such as is Kentucky. At Wilmington, Democrat candidate Joe Biden teared into Trump for his economic policies.
Bottom line, Mr. President, do your job. Get off your golf course and out of the sand bunker. Call the leaders together in the Oval Office. Sit with them and make a deal. Make a deal that delivers for working Americans.
Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania and struck back with vengeance. He defended his actions in the fight against COVID-19 and also took on China.
The stock market's at record levels. Think of it. In the hopefully rounding the turn on the pandemic, we're rounding that turn, and vaccines are coming along great. You know that the job that they've done, the doctors, everybody else, we're years ahead of schedule. Anybody else as president, you wouldn't be talking about vaccines for 2 or 3 years from now, I'll tell you.
China and Iran also figured prominently in the election campaign as rival candidates propagate their viewpoint on the two fronts. US NSA Robert O'Brien has said that China is trying to influence the U.S. elections.
We've made it a red line. We've made it very clear to the Chinese, to the Russians, to the Iranians, and others that haven't been publicly disclosed. That anyone who tries to anyone that attempts to interfere with.
The 2020 elections are being cited as one of the most keenly watched polls in history, and campaigning one of the most fiercely conducted. As the date of the elections comes near, the pitch is only going to get shriller. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's get you some sports updates now, and different sporting arenas and sports in general has been impacted in the new normal world over due to the COVID-19 pandemic. US Open is also being held with COVID protocols in place. Let's get you more on that.
The COVID-19 pandemic has not only messed up the sports calendar this year, but has also changed almost all the games as we know them. The world of sports is slowly limping back, armed with fresh guidelines, standard operating procedures and new rules and regulations. US Open being played at Flushing Meadows in New York is different in multiple ways this time around as the world grapples with the coronavirus pandemic. The US Open is usually a crowded, raucous and an electric affair, but not so for 2020 edition. This year, the tournament grounds at Flushing Meadows, which usually see about 850,000 fans between late August and mid-September, are basically empty. The only people allowed are the athletes, their limited entourages and US Open employees. Players like Andy Murray and Serena Williams are living in strictly regulated hotels and homes, while battling opponents in empty and silent courts. They are watching athletes like Novak Djokovic, the top-ranked male player, from seeds that would normally be snapped up months in advance and cost hundreds of dollars. This is also tennis without some of its biggest names. Rafael Nadal, the defending champion, elected not to attend because of the pandemic. So too did the defending women's champion Bianca Andreescu, the top of the women's field, was heavily diluted with several opt-outs. Additionally, there are COVID-19 protocols in place for players and their teams inside the bubble. If a player exits the bubble without the written consent from US Open Chief Medical Officer, he will be withdrawn and fined. Any guests or coaches who leave without permission will have their tournament access revoked. Masks are mandatory at all times except when eating and drinking. The only other time when players need not wear a mask is when they are on court for a match or practice. Sports Desk, DD India.
In more sports, from home, freestyle wrestler Rahul Abare in the 57 kg category, who had reported to the ongoing senior men wrestling camp at Sports Authority of India, Sonipat, on the 4th of September and was given the SAI's mandatory COVID-19 RT-PCR test on arrival, has tested positive for the virus. According to the protocol, Abare has now been shifted to an SAI impaneled hospital for a precautionary measure and for further monitoring. Abare has been in quarantine since his arrival at the camp and didn't come in contact with any other athlete or staff members since his arrival. And the IPL Governing Council on Sunday announced the schedule for the Indian Premier League 2020 to be held in the UAE. The season will kick-start on the 19th of September in Abu Dhabi with a blockbuster clash between defending champions Mumbai Indians and Chennai Super Kings. After the tournament opener on Saturday, Dubai will host its first game on Sunday when Delhi Capitals take on Kings 11 Punjab, followed by the third match on Monday between Sunrisers Hyderabad and Royal Challengers Bengaluru. The IPL action will shift to Sharjah on Tuesday, which is the 22nd of September, where Rajasthan Royals will host Chennai Super Kings. There will be 10 double headers, with the first match starting at 3:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 2 p.m. UAE time. All evening matches will be starting at 7:30 p.m. IST and 6 p.m. UAE time. In all, 24 matches will be held in Dubai, 20 in Abu Dhabi and 12 in Sharjah. Venues for the playoffs and the IPL 2020 final will be announced later. And that's all we have for the moment from the Newsnight team tonight. But for all the latest, keep watching DD News and DD India.